It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show.
Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 373. And since this is the second part of our Games of the Year show, I am solo recording this intro. Usual suspects are on the show. Ammo and Ash and Grace and Kodra and Tam and Thalen. And when we do this, we don't usually record two intros and two exits, so, I try and piece it together. But here we're going to roll straight into the second part of the Games of the Year show. Okay, next up, we have Final Fantasy VII Remake / Intergrade / Intermission / whatever you want to call it.
Dream drop distance.
358/2?
Please no.
This game is so good.
It's better naming convention than Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
That's an exceedingly low bar.
I have a hard time, this is not one of my picks, but because it was one of my picks on a previous year. But as a comment, I have a hard time deciding if I am more surprised that FF14 exists and is good, or that this game exists and is good. They both feel like impossible games that shouldn't exist, and yet here we are.
It's like, this shouldn't have worked. How did this work?
And yet here we are.
So when we last talked about this game last year, I had not finished it. I had gotten pretty far, but I had not actually finished it. And here recently, I've gone through all of the base game and then all of the Yuffie content, and this was an honorable mention pick for me, and I don't know who actually had it as their main pick.
I did.
But this game is so good. I love the action combat thing instead of turn-based combat. I love it a lot. But also I
love that you don't have to use it.
Yeah, I mean, it's optional. You can turn it off if you want. But so here recently, what prompted me to get back into it is the PC release, which is not good. I'm just going to be honest. It is not a good port. It is a bad port.
Well, that's in keeping with Final Fantasy VII.
I suffered
ports.
through it. I suffered through it, but okay, so what it reminded me of is the PC ports of Force Unleashed, because it suffers from the exact same problem where in your menus you can't use your mouse. You can't select anything with a mouse.
This is the controller only style PC port.
Yes, controller only style PC port. Now it works fine with keyboard, but you have to use your WASD or your arrow keys. Yeah, it's I suffered through the bad interface. Hopefully somebody fixes that at some point. But the combat portion was great with a mouse and keyboard. And that's what prompted me to get through and finish the game. And God, the difference in style of game between the base and the intermission, aka the Yuffie content. The Yuffie content feels like there's this overwhelming feel of Cowboy Bebop to it.
Yeah, the music especially. There were a few times I was listening. I was like,
Okay, that seems appropriate.
It is super appropriate.
It was very fun.
And the fact that she tells everybody, even people she shouldn't, that she's a materia hunter.
Yes.
I was kind of surprised at how short the intermission content was. It's really not long at all. What, 2 chapters, 3 chapters, something like that?
I thought, okay, I'm not going to worry about finishing all my Fort Condor stuff. I'll come back and do that after I do the stuff at, the tower or whatever. But you don't come back from the tower. You go right to chapter 2 and then right to the end.
I mean, it does make me really interested in seeing how the next piece of this remake is going to fit together. And if they're going to do any more of these one-off, like solo stories of
They
characters.
really should.
Mhm.
They should take this opportunity to do a Vincent solo story.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That last one went so well, though.
Not Dirge of
I'll say
Cerberus.
Yeah, like I am rarely as excited about a game as I am about whatever is coming next in this.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked for what's next. I haven't done the Yuffie content, but it sounds like I should.
Yeah, it's really easy for you to drop in and do it.
Yeah.
Like it's not the traditional DLC content where like, oh, this would have been better if I had done this alongside the original. It's just a solo adventure. Like it's like it weaves in and out of the story elements of 7 Remake, but like you could just drop in and pick up, and so long as you have a vague remembrance of the story of Final Fantasy VII, you're going to be fine.
That's good.
Yeah. I think I mentioned I hated Yuffie in the original FF7.
Not uncommon.
Just absolutely could not stand her. And I actually like her in this. Like, they've done a lot of work to preserve a character's essence while not making me decide I don't even need to include them in my party this playthrough.
And they managed to make like her weird weapon actually really fun. Like really fun to do combat with.
Yeah, no, they did, yeah.
Does she still have the oversized star?
Yeah.
Yeah, along other versions of it, but like it is both a melee and a ranged weapon.
Yeah, how do you not give her giant cross boomerang, whatever the heck that thing is?
But it works somehow.
And the Moogle costume's great.
I like how they did the linking up with Sonan, so you had a little more variation to your tactics and your attacks and stuff. I thought that was a cool touch.
Yep, it was. And there's a ton more materia that like didn't get introduced into the base game that they really expanded upon. So hopefully that continues to carry forward into the whatever the next content is. Also, I really liked Fort Condor. I played a lot of Fort Condor. It was fun.
Yeah, I will have to go back and beat the opponents that I didn't try, because I was like, what is this character from the first story doing here? Then I'm like, oh, you're a Fort Condor person. I'm going to come back and kick your butt later.
Yeah.
And then I didn't yet.
For anybody who hasn't played this, Fort Condor is this weird miniature battle game that almost has a Summoner's Rift kind of feel to it, but like a truncated version. There's 3 obstacles that you need to beat, and there's like 2 lanes that you can send troops down, and the boards are slightly different. Like you can swap out your board, you can swap out your characters that you're sending on.
It was a mini game in the original Final Fantasy VII, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
I do not remember this thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
no. You absolutely had to do it. It was like a strategy game.
Yeah, because I think they it's a new version of the music, but they use the music and everything.
I do not remember this minigame.
No, I'm kind of surprised to see that this made it, because I have not done this content. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty fun, and you can get different components for your boards, different units and stuff like that, and mix it up. So I definitely want to go back and find the pieces that I didn't get and try them out.
And all of the theme songs for the Happy Turtle are amazing.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, great. It's really fun. Would not suggest anyone put themselves through the pain that I did with the PC version, but you know,
I mean, it sounds like it's okay if you play it with a controller, but
it's fine if you play it with a controller. But I am stubborn. So next up is another Square game, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yay.
A game by all rights that should not have been good.
Yeah. No.
Right?
Like the Avengers game, by all accounts, was not good. But this Guardian.
It was a different dev.
Yeah, it was, but it's still Marvel. So, everybody associates them all together. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy is so the worst part of this game is the combat. The combat is fine. It is,
Yes.
it's not bad. It's there.
It doesn't offend me.
Yeah.
But it's not like stunning.
Yeah, it is aggressively mediocre. But everything else is fantastic. The story is great, the characters are brilliant, and the character interaction is so good. Like to the point that it was hard for me to find a place to stop playing because the characters kept talking to each other and I kept wanting to continue and where's this conversation going? At what point can I reasonably, stop and come back to this later? Because one important thing is this game it's versions of the characters that are somewhere in between the movie and comics versions of the characters, closer to the comics versions. Most importantly, Star-Lord is not a moron. He's actually competent, and mostly the rest of the team actually respects him. Mostly. Well, look, Rocket gives him crap because it's Rocket.
But does Rocket give anyone respect other than Groot?
I mean,
it's questionable if he actually gives Groot respect.
Again, more so than in the movies, but he also rides everybody's ass. So
yes, well,
But yeah, but also there are moments where you need Rocket to do a thing, or Rocket and he's actually for Rocket reasonably respectful in that he clearly thinks Star-Lord is someone that is actually worth listening to. And you can understand why these characters are all working together despite giving each other crap on a regular basis, and why they haven't killed each other yet. And they're just a lot of fun.
I'm so glad that you have had a chance to play this game, because I felt like it would be so up your alley.
Yeah, these are versions of these characters that I really, really like.
I like them better than the movie versions.
That's probably a good thing. I got this game for Christmas. I haven't started it yet, but I am definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I know you like the comics version of the characters, so
yes. So I think I'm going to be very happy.
Yeah, you should be pleased with these.
So next up, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and I am so unbelievably happy that this game exists, because more than anything, it rights one of the horrible wrongs of Mass Effect and makes the first game more playable.
That's the thing that's needed.
Yes.
But honestly, there's a bunch of quality of life improvements to all of the games. And when this came out, I think in May, I played through all three in sequence, and it was a grand old time. And I am happy that this series is going to be alive for people who didn't play it when it first came out and are, masochists to go back and try and replay the first game.
The first game is important in so many ways, and just having everything in one place so you could just play through the whole thing is it's so good to have.
This is why remasters need to exist, is because there's nothing wrong with the story of Mass Effect. It is still an amazing narrative experience, but mechanically that first game was not good. It really wasn't.
It was fine for the time.
It was fine when it came out.
It was great when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
It was, however, having a bit of an identity crisis when it came out. It couldn't decide whether it wanted to be a shooter or an RPG, and it was kind of a bad example of both.
Right.
But it was still great when it came out. It just became dated very fast.
Yes.
But and it's part of the reason why I'm really looking forward to the remaster of Knights of the Old Republic. That is a game that has not held up terribly well over time. It does so fine in the narrative department, but mechanically it's not a great game right now. But this is going to allow people to continue to enjoy this franchise and continue to get into this franchise, even if they weren't bought in from the very beginning. And like more recently, I've been playing The Witcher 3 again, and quite honestly, I would never suggest anyone play anything other than the third game. Like, the other two are too far gone, which is sad because, like, there's narrative elements that happen in both of them that are worth experiencing, but, like, it's not worth suffering through it. Whereas with Legendary Edition, you know, you have 3 games, all the DLC for the most part. There was one DLC that I think that they didn't have.
The one from Mass Effect 1, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't that great anyway. You didn't miss much.
But like, it's all in one package. You can just play the whole thing. You know, there was a lot of this that I hadn't played all the DLC for until it was all collected, especially some of the Mass Effect 2 DLC. I hope at some point they do something similar for Dragon Age.
That would be good.
Because Origin is fine, but like, I'm also, nostalgia's carrying me a lot of the way. And it doesn't run terribly well. Like, there's always issues with entitlement and getting the DLC working, and so I'm hoping at some point they go back through and do the same treatment for Dragon Age.
But Bill, Origins is the only good Dragon Age game.
I mean, I love
Note
Dragon
that I do
Age
not
Origin.
actually believe this, but it's a thing people say a lot.
Yeah.
I love Dragon Age Origin.
I mean, it's the only one I finished.
But like, after having finally been able to get through Inquisition, I have to say I like Inquisition the best now.
The same.
Like, it took me a long time to be able to get through that game, but after having done it,
I'm so glad that you joined me, that you've finally joined me in this place.
like, it is so much more intricate than any of the other offerings. And like, with Mass Effect 3, as much as I don't think they did a good job sticking the landing there, the overall experience of that game, especially if you play it from the first game forward, is such a great experience to have all these plot threads wrap themselves up. And like, and that's the problem with not having a viable first game prior to this, is there's so many things that you'll only ever see if you started it in the first game.
Yeah. I also think that they had an impossible landing to stick.
They did. They really did.
Like, it's not a landing that anybody could stick. The fact that it's a landing at all is honestly impressive enough for me.
I mean, so I wonder if you should recognize at that point that this landing isn't going to get stuck well, and like say, actually, what if Mass Effect just becomes like Star Trek, where we just keep doing it forever, different stories?
I don't think you can pivot at that point.
I guess not.
Yeah.
Because the point where they would have realized that would have been like halfway through the development of ME3.
Yeah, and then they would have...
And everything is heading towards this one path.
Yeah, everything's heading towards the Reapers.
Yeah, I mean, the Citadel DLC makes...
Incredible.
It makes the poor landing seem a little better. Because you get to finally do a lot of the things that you had wanted to do in the wrap-up.
That's the true ending of that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that said multiple times now.
It is.
It's true.
The conclusion of the actual crisis is irrelevant. Not entirely irrelevant, but
Mostly.
Citadel DLC is the ending to the part of the game that you cared about.
Yeah, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Next game on the list, I would say, is more of a phenomena than a game at this point. But Valheim, it came out of nowhere and captured the hearts and minds of so many people.
I haven't visited it again since
I haven't
were playing, but Valheim was great, and like I was so hopeful. Like, honestly, people kept saying, "Oh, you should try New World. It's kind of like an MMO of Valheim." And you know what? It kind of was.
Kind of was.
The parts of New World that I loved that I couldn't get enough of felt very Valheim-y to me. They didn't quite, and Val, like, I understand why you do the things you do, but like I feel like you missed out on the beautiful experience of like figuring out how to go from point A to point B felt so weighty and important and interesting in that game. And like I loved it so much. Like how are we going to build navigable routes through this world so that we can get to where we want to go?
How are we going to get past Bell's Folly this time?
How are we going to get past Bell's Folly this time?
Oh man.
But yeah, like the most interesting part of Valheim to me was definitely like going out looking for the resource that I need, establishing a base camp near enough to said resource that I can, get to and from it reasonably well, and have a way to port back home for, repairs and stuff. And then once I've got enough of said resource, trucking it all back to my main base, getting into the longship and sailing it home.
So getting stuff from point A to point B. It's sort of a like I have ranted multiple times about how movement being interesting is so important to games, and like movement can just mean getting stuff from point A to point B, and sometimes that's all you need to be interesting.
But what I love about the game is also that there are so many different takes on it, because I mean, so all of you loved that process of getting to a place and then getting your stuff and lugging it back. And I think Belle and I both also super loved this game, but had a totally different experience.
Yeah.
Because I think neither of us, once we figured out how, like, ever bothered trucking stuff around again. Like, get to a place.
I optimized it.
And then teleport it back via being dumb. But like that wasn't the point. Like that wasn't the fun part, right? Like trucking that stuff back, definitely not the fun part for me. For me, the fun part was just exploring, testing myself against whatever like monsters and things were lurking around, like finding new places, like just getting in a ship
killing
and
30,000 goblins.
Yeah.
So many goblins dead. Because, like, I don't know if you ever just went looking through my bins in my base, but I had so much dark metal from all the stupid goblins.
But yeah, like even without that travel piece being interesting, like the game is still so good.
I think that's the real strength of it, is that it's still good even without that thing that like we loved. But
and especially if you've got a lot of people playing on a shared server, and so different people can engage with the parts of the game that they like best, and then other people can benefit off of that and then do the things they like best. Like, I
mean, I tried to cloister myself off by myself so I wasn't ruining the game for anybody else because I was so much further progressed.
I mean, eventually we mostly caught up to you, and then
yeah. And all the wolves. Oh God, all the wolves.
Didn't they eventually make a patch that made that less thing?
And I'm kind of sad because it was so funny, because every time somebody would walk into my base, all the wolves would be sad and they would feed them. And I would have 20 more wolves.
You gotta feed them.
Then I would have 20 more wolves.
You can't just let them go hungry.
God, the original acquisition was just so funny because, like, I built a base on top of a pen full of wolves so that I could sit up in the mountains safely while they tamed themselves. But, like, I had apparently fed them too much, so by the time they even reached the base, they immediately started spitting out baby wolves. And it was just all over with that. The thing is what'll bring me back to Valheim is when they add new biomes.
Yep. And they are working on the Mistlands. There was a message relatively recently that they're, continuing work on that.
The Mistlands were just so unbelievably creepy.
Yeah. And also, apparently, they're adding caves to the mountains. So,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, who knows what that's,
I mean, I would love to see them add Minecraft to that game to where I can actually dig down and build an underground base without
having to
breaking the terrain.
Yeah. Because you can kind of sort of do it.
Yeah. But you're basically just
touchy.
like lowering the Z-axis as much as you can through digging and then trying to put something over top of it.
Yeah.
But I've seen some really cool builds lately.
I'd really like to see like this. This was my first game of this genre that felt like okay. So what I will say is this game did the thing where the world was scary, and we talk about this a lot, especially Tam and I, where frequently the only way to make things scary is by I see a player. What are they going to do to me? Oh, are they going to kill me? Oh, man, I really wish I didn't see another person playing this game because they might kill me. And, like, if you are playing a game that is multiplayer and your response to, there's another player that's really, really bad for me, that's kind of a problem. Whereas in Valheim, if I see another player, oh, my goodness, I might have somebody help me with this terrifying world because this world wants me dead.
Yep. Oh my god, the mosquitoes, the death mosquitoes.
Things are terrible.
I am oh no, there are a frostworm. That thing wants me dead. Oh, that person's shooting arrows at it. How great. Oh, even earlier. Oh, there's a troll. That troll is going to kill me. But there's somebody who's pulling it off of me with arrows.
Well, and the entire adventure was like preparing for a boss in that game was an epic undertaking. Like the couple times that I helped somebody take down whatever the frost dragon was, and it ended up basically destroying the entire mountainside in the process.
Yep.
And the fifth boss was horrible. Big undead skeleton thingy.
Ugh.
Was that? I thought that was the third boss.
The third was the giant blob that spit out oozes and skeletons.
This is a giant, like, skeleton-looking thing.
Yeah.
I might not have ever encountered that one. I think
that's the plains boss.
It was the reason why I was going all over the freaking place, because I was trying to find wherever the hell it was at in our world. Because you have to find a specific plains biome with, like, these... I don't remember if it was 5 or if it was 10 fingers of rock jutting up from the ground, and that's where that boss is spawned. But like that was part of the whole aspect too. Is it's not just that like, oh hey, I need to go kill this boss. I gotta find the boss. I gotta figure out where it's even at in our world.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they raked in enough money to keep it going and do a bunch of interesting things with it, because like they had some really interesting design ethic behind the game.
Yeah.
Next game on the list, Wildermyth.
Ooh, yeah. Wildermyth is fantastic at creating stories. like this is I feel like we've always had this concept of like story blocks that where like you can have a bunch of like story beats that fit together to like tell a cohesive story, and like it's never really been great, but oh man, Wildermyth has figured out how to do this, and it feels really cool watching like this procedural story happen to your party, and how do your characters interact with each other, and what relationships form, and what transformations occur.
I love games where systems all come together to become story engines. And Wildermyth is a little on the nose as far as that goes, but it's great. Like it works. And you have like characters that have stories.
And like this also got me into the mindset of a very different type of story than I'm used to, because it feels like so many modern fantasy stories are very focused on making things like, I kind of joke, they want things to make sense, and this game doesn't care if it necessarily makes sense as long as it's like it feels cool. Like, what's this weird thing we just saw? I don't know, but it's out there. What does that mean about the world? Why don't you figure that out? It's very mythic. Like, you are doing things that don't necessarily make sense, that does not necessarily make sense, but it's okay. The world is full of mystery. I don't know. I feel like too many stories like try and have everything come together and make sense at the end.
Like what I've seen of it, I've not played it, but I've watched some people play it, is it seems more like it leans heavily on the fable aspect. Like, this is a tale of some stuff that happened. And fables don't usually fit neatly together.
Yeah.
Like they're from an unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
This gets even worse if you bring characters back, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Because then their legend expands into something that makes even less sense. But, whatever.
Also, this is the second game on our list that features Ghost Bear. A little bit less friendly of a Ghost Bear, though, I think.
Don't you have to defeat that bear in order to actually get the good thing out of that?
Yeah, it wants to eat you.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And so you eat it and then become the bear. Or at least somewhat bear. You become somewhat Ghost Bear, and slowly you become more Ghost Bear over time.
I was going to say increasingly bear as time goes on.
My only issue with the game, is I'm not sure how super well... It's got some issues supporting multiple people simultaneously, both in terms of the UI and in terms of spreading out the cool things that happen. Because I don't actually think any of my characters have had much interesting occur for them in the various times we've played. Like, there's definitely really cool stuff happening with other people's characters, but I haven't gotten blessed with any of those story things. And I think that it could spread that around a little bit better. But also, if I had to pick something to fix first, I would fix some of the weird simultaneity UI problems.
We should probably play it again.
That can be a little weird sometimes.
We should probably play it again. They did a release that was focused on multiplayer.
Ooh.
Yeah, and in fact, it includes now a up to 5-person legacy mode where you start with up to 5 legacy characters, one from each player.
Huh.
Yeah. It is still a game in development, as it feels like most games these days. But I did notice that and thought that seemed very cool and designed for the person who wants to be I have this one character and I want them to be my character, and we're going to have a bunch of campaigns where they are my character, along with my friends who all have their own characters. Yeah,
and I like the I like having a new character more frequently. Just try something different, and it sort of supports both.
I will say the Crazy Tree Mage we have is definitely going into my Legacy Vault when we finish that campaign, because I like that character very much.
The creates trees and then blows trees up mage?
Creates trees, and trees make you invisible, and all other sorted plant things. Yeah,
that's another interesting thing. There is a lot, there's a surprising amount of depth to the combat, which is good, because that's a lot of the what the game is, when you're not laughing at the weird story that's happening. It is a tactical, turn-based tactics, grid-based combat.
It's quite good.
That's quite good. One of the things that I don't think we yet mentioned, talking about story beats, all of the characters have stats, and those stats are their personality, and that somehow still comes through in the dialogue. Oh yes, this person is bookish, or this person is sarcastic, and I can see that in the way they respond to these things. My guess is that it's a given story needs to slot a character in, and it figures out who would be best to deliver that line, but it's still quite funny.
It's also good it's also good even if you just have a character in the background making a facial expression, it usually fits.
I appreciate some of the when there are also some really weirdly very touching moments. we had a couple of characters who had entered a relationship, and one was like being haunted by like nightmares and like trying to figure out what to do, and it was like all themed around them talking through the problems and figuring out what were like good solutions and how to make sure each other was healthy and like establishing good communication. I don't know. It was like, this was a shockingly healthy relationship. And sometimes they have unsurprisingly unhealthy relationships. It's really interesting how much like character comes through with these characters.
We're getting closer to the end here. We've got 2 left. Next up, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This is maybe the best Ratchet and Clank game.
Hey, I finally got a PS5.
Yay!
Guess what I've played on it?
Hey, I finally got a PS5. Guess what I intend to play on it?
Wait, hang on. Over the course of this time, have all of us ended up with PS5s?
I think
Think
maybe
so?
I was the last. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think all of us have one now.
I
Wild!
finally got mine.
Hey!
So yeah, I can play all the games that you people have been gushing about for all this time.
Like, is
There's
this
like
a really...
5 games that we've talked about tonight that are on my like, yep, I need to play that on my PS5.
This is a really good Ratchet and Clank game. Just like,
Mm-hmm.
I love Ratchet and Clank games, but like, this is a really good one. Like, this is I think the evolution of all the great ones.
Yeah, I'd never really gotten into Ratchet and Clank. And admittedly, I haven't beaten this one, but I really enjoy playing it. I need to be in the right mood for it. It's not usually my sort of thing, but I really, really enjoy it.
I mean, I still haven't beat this one. It still made my games of the year top 3.
Yes,
It's that good. Also, part of the reason why I haven't beaten it is because my spouse, who pretty much doesn't play video games, will not put this one down. And if that doesn't say something, then yeah, I don't know what would. It's so good.
Well, and there's a lot of interesting things going on in this game because, like, it feels more open world than a Ratchet and Clank game usually is. Like, there's always been this central conceit of, oh, I'm going to go to all these planets. But, like, when you're on a planet, it's really kind of a series of corridors. And this feels like there's a lot more going on individual planets.
I think that's kind of funny when I think about it. Thinking about the planets on this one are designed a lot like the planets in the first game, like the very first game.
Yeah.
In that there are, say, like 2-ish paths per planet, and you're probably going to do both, but it makes it feel like there is at least a little bit of choice in navigation.
Right. Well, it makes it feel like there's more going on than, like, I'm going to follow this corridor, and this is going to get me to the end, and then I'm going to move on to the next planet. And whether or not I bought the weapon was my choice. Or more so, what order I bought the weapons in.
Right? Yeah. You didn't buy some of the weapons? What?
That honestly is what brings me joy about a Ratchet and Clank game, is the inventive weapons. Like, my favorite here was the mushroom decoy guy.
Mr. Fun Guy.
Yeah, like, it's the best thing ever.
That's the one weapon I have completely maxed out already.
I love
so
the
good.
fun guy.
For Mr. Zircon, and it was a good trade, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, so I've joked that this is the opposite of a Gundam, in that it is the horrors of robot and WoW Cool War. Because, like, boy, all of the fighting in this game is such a joy. And then, yes, every robot is a little bit sad about being a robot. But I love Fun Guy. I love all of the weapons, and, like, yeah, it's very fun. It makes me want to hunt for the collectibles so that I can upgrade my weapons to be even more ludicrous. Like, in the harder battles, I'm definitely like, just, okay, what weapon still has ammo? All right, well, get in there. It's your turn, I guess.
Make us proud.
Yeah, make us proud, I guess.
I've only got one bomb left.
What ammo crate just dropped? Cool. Let's switch to that weapon and start fighting again.
I did see the any percents for this game because I wanted to see what weapon is basically the most overpowered. And the answer is the starting bomb.
Ah, okay.
I mean, to be fair, like that's a reoccurring theme in Ratchet and Clank games. Whatever the bomb is always amazing.
Yeah, it's always real good.
Like it's your heavy ammo. Like it's the thing that you're gonna get the most work out of.
And in recognition of this, they started giving you less and less ammo for it each time.
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
like,
to me, this is...
in Ratchet and Clank 2 has like 30 ammo or something. It can take you through every single fight in that game.
This is the axe in Castlevania. I was pleased with this game, and I will be looking forward to the next one. But like we've had two really good ones back to back. The remake, the last one was basically a remake, and then this one had such a fun introduction. Like the parade was so amazing.
For me, the remake was quite good, but I still liked the last PS3 game better. The last full PS3 game, Crack in Time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this takes over. This passes that for my new favorite in the series.
Also, this is like a style of game I did not realize was still being made, and apparently it's just Ratchet and Clank games, but it reminds me of old Jet Force Gemini games, and I remember loving those as a kid and wondering what happened to them.
They're all Ratchet and Clank now.
So we've arrived at the end, and this was most definitely my game of the year. And I like the problem with this is we hinted at the beginning is all of us kind of wrote this differently. Some of us said Final Fantasy 14, some of us said Endwalker, some of us said, and like for me personally, just Final Fantasy 14 itself is my game of the year because I came back to the game about a month before madness happened.
I was going to say, I didn't put this on the list because of Endwalker, because by the time we made this list, I hadn't played Endwalker, basically.
But like nobody else, I can't think of another situation where an MMO has skyrocketed players during a content drought.
Yeah.
July was nonsense for Final Fantasy 14.
So many people want to play this game that they have stopped selling it.
Twice now. They did it initially when like they had the first server congestion problems. They completely stopped selling the game. And now they had to do it again with Endwalker because too many people want to play the game. And like it sucks from where we're standing because we are not only on the highest population data center, but we're now on the highest population server on that data center. I mean,
Yikes.
Yep.
And all of that is because we had the bad luck of having a couple very high profile streamers roll on our server.
Yeah.
It's the Bell effect. It's your fault, Bell.
Yeah.
I am not. I am not said person. Like I've recruited a bunch.
No.
Your magnetism attracted them.
Yes.
Yep.
You are not necessarily the person who is most popular, but you bring the people together. This is your fault.
Yeah. They did not know why they rolled on Cactar, but that's why.
They were influenced.
Yeah.
It would be hilarious if it would be so bizarre if that was actually true.
I would not be surprised if like there was a chain that ultimately led back to you. Like
because I've recruited the hell out of getting people onto Cactar from social media.
7 degrees of Belgast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it does kind of make me wonder because like Rich rolled on the server because of someone. And that was the chain of events that like it makes me wonder who the someone was and who that someone did for oh man. Anyway.
Yeah.
Cactar's still a great place.
Oh yeah. Like the presence of all these new people has not like noticeably affected the feel of the server as far as I can tell. I'm very happy
it's the
about
magic
this.
of FF14.
They have been assumed into the population.
Yeah.
The glory of glamour has, accepted them.
Like to be fair, like I've watched some highlights of various streamers and it has been a progression. Like they start off being their, somewhat toxic self. And then after a couple of months, they're just enraptured by the joy that is Final Fantasy XIV.
Yes.
And it's just it's everywhere. I mean, I, in a fit of madness, rolled an alt and just joined like whatever random guild just to have some green text. And like as soon as I join every single day, it's always glamour, glamour, glamour. Hey, can you craft me this thing? Where can I find the boots that will match this outfit? Like, it's just amazing. I love it. I love it so much.
Well, and we've got a guy on our server that camps out in Gold Saucer, like, I swear all the freaking time, just handing people gear that is used to require or meet the requirements of the fashion thing. And like, he just sits there and hands over like, the 3 or 4 pieces that they absolutely have to get their 80 points. But
yep. And every year for at least the past 3 years, I want to say, and possibly longer, like probably as long as this stuff has been in the game, every Starlight, aka Christmas, there's been a person in Gridania handing out free Santa outfits. Because if you got it back when it was added, you can pull more of them as much as you want, and it's tradable. So they hang out in Gridania, they hand them out to anybody who wants.
It's basically nothing.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if it's been the same person each time. I kind of think it has been.
Well, and we've got people that like hand out pets, but it's always like a fixed pet. Like there's a guy that hands out rats. There's a lady that has the Dodo Appreciation Society and hands out dodos. There's just so many quirky little things that the community does.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like, so it's an amazing community, and also it's an amazing game. Like it's just good. It's a fun game to play and with an amazing story.
And like, if we're going to go into, the tail end of the year and Endwalker, like Endwalker is probably my game of the past decade.
Yeah.
Because, to me, this is a lot like Infinity War and Endgame was, that it's an experience that stands on the shoulders of like 30 movies getting to that point. This stands on 10 years worth of content. This is the culmination of this epic.
Yeah, this was literally a decade in the making. Like this pays off everything that started with the fall of Dalamud. Like this literally started before A Realm Reborn launched. It pays off all that, and it does it well.
And we have to be very careful because, like, there are folks on the podcast that have not experienced Endwalker, and we do not want to do anything to spoil it. But
yeah, I think.
Oh my God, this ride!
Just barely over half of us have finished Endwalker. I would probably still call Shadowbringers my top expansion, just based only on what is in it. But Endwalker is it's the culmination.
My comment before the show, I have a lot of thoughts about FF14. It didn't make my list. My thought about Endwalker, and we talked about Mass Effect earlier. I suspect that Endwalker is sort of the Mass 3 of the series. I think that there are going to be a lot of people who say that Shadowbringers was their favorite entry in the series because it was more focused. But Endwalker really is, like you mentioned, wrapping things up.
And also laying a few new threads, like a very few and very lightly, for places we can go in the future.
Which is important if you're going to continue making stuff.
Yeah.
So my FF14 sits so high on my estimation of games because if it were any other game, I would be done playing with it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done with hotbar combat MMOs. I'm never going to start a new one at this point, unless it's, I shouldn't say never, but like, the odds of me getting excited about a new hotbar MMO are minimal. And
Yes.
and entirely honestly, like, there's not a lot of gameplay variety in FF14.
Yeah.
But what it's doing is so well crafted that I don't care. My biggest complaint in Shadowbringers was I've done this hotbar thing before, and they haven't mucked with the formula, especially in any of the classes that I really love, enough for it not to feel like I'm punching in my phone number and just being frustrated by it. And then they released this new summoner, and honestly, like, I would have bet against it. If somebody had like showed me the summoner design, I would have been like, no, they're not going to actually do that. I'll bet against that happening. Summoner's fun to play.
It really is.
For honestly, like, I liked Summoner thematically for a long time, and have been and have enjoyed like parts of what it's doing, but the design of it is so good now that it's the best it's ever been, including the class that I initially got into.
It's also terrifying to raid with.
Yes.
I mean,
Very
that's
true.
The theme. That's the whole theme of the class is you're kind of the bad ideas thing. And, you know, Morning my tank was...
I mean,
honestly,
that was terrifying during Heaven's Ward.
Oh
Yeah.
God, Free just dropped in from the ceiling. I need to be... Oh, no, that's friendly.
Friendly fire.
leading into the thing...
But the thing I just moved into isn't friendly. Thanks.
I look forward to getting into raids so that I can hit that button.
It's great.
Oh, I
All those
can't see
buttons.
which way the boss is facing because Titan just landed on it.
That too. Bombus wings are so large.
I mean, it's great. And
You are not the summoner. You can make summoner pets look smaller.
I know I can, but I don't want to.
Yeah, that's way less
That's kind
fun.
of where I am.
But why would you exactly?
Like I really should, because yeah, they get in the way of my vision, but I like them being huge.
Yeah, agreed. It's terrifying, but delightful.
I also appreciate that they have pulled back from a design in which I feel like I need to grind.
Yes.
Because in order to get through the story. Because the thing that would probably push me out of it is if I got to, I'm looking at you, what was that zone in Heaven's Word where you had to do 300 hours of Moogle bullshit?
That zone was awful.
I hated it. And if I had hit that zone in this expansion, I probably would have dropped it. And I haven't. And I didn't hit it. I don't even remember hitting it in Shadowbringers either.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and one of the things that I
Shadowbringers, if
really,
you're doing one class, you could just go pretty much straight through.
Yeah.
well, one of the things I really appreciate this time is like you can do more than one class if you're just doing it straight through and not doing any of the side quests. But you're going to want to do the side quests because the story of the side quests are so freaking good.
The side quests are really, really good.
Like
I will say trying
they
to do
stepped
4
it up
classes
this
at once
time.
is kind of stretching it, though. Just
That might be a
to
bit
let people know
much.
that.
But you can absolutely only do main story quests on your primary job and funnel nearly every side quest into an alternate job and basically level 2 jobs without any problem. They actually apologized a little while back because it turned out that they had very slightly miscalculated and the main story quest experience was not quite sufficient all by itself to hit the It was just barely too little.
Well, I
You
think the
might
reason
have to do a side quest or two.
I think the reason why I ended up so far ahead is this time they really have Fate experience tuned up a lot.
They do.
And I mean, if there's a Fate rolling when I happen to be walking through an area, I'm gonna do a Fate. Like,
Well, yeah.
so I like doing Fates.
I kind of just did enough to get the writing map, and that was kind of it.
I want those gemstones, and and to
Can I tell you how happy I am that they just kept the same gemstone currency?
Oh yes.
Yes.
Oh,
They
for
also
sure.
they also kept the same hunt currency.
Yeah, that was amazing.
For whatever reason, the
That
hunts
didn't
in the
make any
Shorelands
sense
are
at all,
giving
but
you
I'm still
stacks
happy
of
for it.
nuts.
Nuts. Yeah, still getting nuts.
So
It's utterly nonsensical, but yes, thank you.
So I'm kind of in the Tam boat. This was not on my list mostly because I like, and I don't have the luxury. Although I might try Summoner, but I play Dragoon, and Dragoon has not changed at all.
It's changed a very
It's not
little
actually
bit.
true. It just may not have changed enough.
Basically, nearly every class that had something that just needed to be up all the
Right.
time, it's just up all the time.
Yeah, so its thing is up all the time. So it's
And
got
timers tend to be a lot more forgiving.
It's got a slight quality of life improvement there, but like the core loop has not really changed.
Yes.
And like it is going to tell an interesting story, but I'm also kind of like, I really want to see what this team does with a Final Fantasy 17. Because they can tell very compelling MMO stories very well, and I'd love to see a big systems update.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the team that's making FF16.
Yes.
Now, is FF16 an MMO?
It is not,
no.
Okay.
but still, it
Are
should
we
be a good
sure?
vehicle for their storytelling.
We're pretty sure. But yeah, like I don't feel like any difficulty saying that at this point Final Fantasy XIV is the best Final Fantasy story. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
And in part it's because they've had
There's so much of it.
There's so much of it, yeah. Like it's been spread out over 10 years.
Right.
And it's
Like it
borrowed
almost
from
feels
all
unfair.
the ones that came before,
Oh,
not
yeah,
just
that.
the expansions, but the previous Final Fantasies.
Yeah, because that's the thing is that they bring in characters that, like, if you've played previous Final Fantasies, you already know this character, kind of. Like not this specific version of this character, but you've met Kryl before. You know
But
Kryl.
yeah, well, and that's in so many ways that's kind of like the connective tissue of Final Fantasy games is this character. You don't know this it's like the
You don't know what
Sid.
their story is this time, but you know who this character is.
You know Sid. You've met Sid.
it's like weird mythology. Like you know this character even if you don't know this particular one.
Right. We've had Biggs and Wedge in all the games.
Are you telling me that Deltarune is just following the Final Fantasy formula?
Maybe.
Yes.
Yes.
Like not even joking. Yes.
Yeah. I don't even have to hesitate on that one.
Yeah. We've established these characters and these elements of the setting, and now we're going to have some fun with them. Yeah.
It might
Works
take a
for
few
me.
games for their characters to start looking different, but
Yep.
we'll get there eventually. Final Fantasy's been doing it for 34 years.
Yeah. Yeah, because it took a couple of games for like all of the things that we think of as core to a Final Fantasy game to all get put into place and established.
Yeah.
But yeah, like at this point, I've finished the main story quest. I've done the initial raid that's been released, done all the side quests, and I'm still real excited to see what's next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the last few Final Fantasy XIV expansions that have come out, I've kind of been like, oh, am I that excited about this? I don't know how into Final Fantasy XIV I am anymore. And then I get into them, and relatively quickly I'm like, oh no, this is why I play this game.
Yep. Oh, also, story-wise, don't sleep on the role quests.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard they're great.
They are important story.
Yes, very much so.
Like this is how they're taking us back to the various countries and letting us do some more with each of them.
I feel like it's very important for us to also talk about the emotional wrath that this game has on its players. There are moments in these games that, like, if I hear a certain song,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
if I hear a specific name,
Yep.
oh man, it's just
in particular, specific song cues and specific poses. So the final trial, without spoiling anything, the latter half of the final trial, I died because I could not properly see the telegraphs because my eyes were full of tears.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, no, like it's well, and the problem is like, so there's a community person called Lulu that releases highlights from the various streamers going through content, and just little clips of someone else experiencing the emotional sucker punches that I've experienced before are enough to send me reeling.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so many feels.
And like this specific expansion is maybe the worst.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's
like
paying off.
I was
everything,
very not
and
okay after Shadowbringers, but I'm still really not okay after Endwalker.
Yeah.
I'm even less okay after this one.
This one puts you through the ringer. It does. And I think in part of that is because very quickly, at least for me, this expansion reached a point where it's like, I can see a lot of places this can go, and I don't know which one of those we're going. And some of those could be really bad.
This expansion, I did not. I mean, I've mentioned before on the show. I went into this expansion pretty skeptical because, as we've talked about, the two characters that they're setting up as the villains of the expansion, I'm like, oh my god, really? And then stuff happens, and I'm like, well, shit, what?
Like, I actually care about this person now.
Yeah, damn you, Square, for making me care about this character.
Well, and then also like, this went in directions I didn't expect, and now I don't know where this is going to go or with whom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm still pissed as hell at Yoshi P and crew for making me like Alphino and for making me like Urine Jar.
Wow.
I mean,
it's not happening. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I never got to the point of liking Urine Jar, but man, having played through the early like ARR main story stuff and seeing Alphino, and then like my reaction to him now is just so completely different. And like they did that with their storytelling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, like at this point, I like all the Scions. Like,
Same. Yeah.
they are my friends, and I have been through hell with them, and some of them have made some mistakes along the way, but they're forgiven.
And I am looking forward to our full spoiler show when everybody has actually been able to make it through the story.
Yep.
Yeah.
2023.
I'm going to probably be a while because I don't have a ton of time, and also queues are terrible.
Yeah. I tried to log in right before we started podcasting, and it was like 3,500, something like that.
Yeah.
West Coast time.
Yeah. I mean, they're improving. A few weeks back, at that same time, the queue would have been like 8,000. So
Yeah, and
we'll get there.
I can't really get in early, so I have to get in late.
Actually, if you were in West Coast time, it's probably better to get in late.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're on West Coast time, you can get in. You can just log straight in with a queue of like 30 or 80, starting at about 11 p.m.
Sometimes
that sounds about right.
But yeah, not much earlier.
Yeah, I'm hoping they can do something about the congestion because, like, I mean, they understand the issue this is.
I mean, they know what the issue is, and they know what they need to do about it. It's,
Just can't.
But like,
nobody can.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, like, hardware on a large scale from vendors right now, it's got like upwards of an 18-month lead time at times.
Yeah,
it's misery.
Like I mean, the amount of hardware they're needing to purchase is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
To like expand out a data center, the amount of hardware that they're needing to purchase is just the problem, and I don't know when they're going to get the volume of resources, because like everything is back ordered from an enterprise standpoint right now.
Like it sounds like maybe they've been able to source some things and at least know on their end when they might like actually have some hardware. We'll see if that's actually the case and if they get things when they think they're going to. Obviously, we don't have any dates yet because, they don't know for sure. At least they got the 2002 bug fixed, so you don't have to babysit the queue.
Yeah, made a huge difference.
Because so even if you have to sit through a 3,000 person queue, like assuming you have the time to be able to play when you eventually get through it, you can queue it up and go do something else.
But during prime time, you're basically looking at a 3-hour queue.
Yeah.
I just don't have that in me.
Well, and for me, once I knocked out the MSQ, that was the thing I had a burning desire for. I've just been playing other games until the queues calm down. I'm very much not done with Final Fantasy XIV at the moment, but I'll let someone else take my slot for the time being.
When you have the opportunity, the raid is very interesting and links up to story threads.
Cool.
Yes, it was a very enjoyable story.
It's not as direct a continuation of the story as Eden was, but it's tied in.
I appreciate that they are doing more, that they're going back to the raids being connected to the story in an interesting and meaningful way without being like required reading.
Yeah, this is very much there's still things that you don't know about some things, and this seems like it's going to fill in some of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think on that note, we may have recorded a Games of the Year show.
Yay!
Hey.
Hooray!
Pair of shows.
I mean, technically it'll be a pair of shows, but,
It was a year.
It was a year. It was most definitely a year.
That was the year that was.
If you are listening, I hope y'all have a good year this year, as best as you are able.
Yes.
Yup.
May 2022 be better than 2020 and 2021 have been.
I can tell you, this is going to be a weird year for me on a variety of axes. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Good luck, everyone.
Well, as often is the case, I hope you all enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good time.
Good night.
Night.
See you.